Funding for The Rotor Workshop is provided in part by Hitachi Power Tools, manufacturers of a full range of construction and woodworking power tools. There are few things more satisfying to build or give than a beautiful pine chest. In this, the first of a special two-part series, Bob and Rick will show you how to make one in your shop. We'll start with the unique raised panels which give it that professional look. Next, in the Rotor Workshop.
Welcome back to the Работа Workshop. This is a first of a two-part series, and what we're going to do is build a hope chest today. And if we just open this up here and let you look a little bit at it, Dad, you want to start with the moldings and things on the bottom there?
Well, we got a base, and that's just a straight base. And then we have a classical type mold in here. It's got a full bullnose on this edge, Rick, and then a big cove in it. And it's mitered at the corners and it goes all the way around the chest. And then we got up into the fancy stuff.
That's right. We got raised panels today, and usually what you do with a raised panel is build a door. Well, we're making the whole chest, and the chest goes all the way around the outside of it, is all paneled out, and it looks really sharp. The other thing we got is we've got the cove. If you looked at the cope and bead molds tying up inside of it, so it's going to be really a solid build. The other thing is corners. This is going to be an interesting joint.
This is interesting. We always talk about butt joints and things. Well, we have really a butt joint on the corner, except, Rick, we've used a rabbet on one piece, and on the opposite piece in here what we've got is we got a groove in it that the rabbet fits into, making it flush, shows the grain good. And then we get to the inside of the box.
Right. We get to the tray here. What we're doing with the tray is we're going to tie it together with box joints on the end, and then we're going to have our dado inside for the tray dividers, and basically the tray holds all your trinkets and things, and it's made out of aromatic cedar. So it slides back and forth and gives a good smell inside the cabinet. Now we've got the lid too, do we?
Yeah, the lid is neat in here. And we see in here a lot of times we'll use a plywood base thing and then we'll put a mold around it. Today we're using solid woods, and you mentioned maybe earlier to us here, Rick, that we're going to make it out of pine rather than the walnut. But we put a mold, and we've matched that mold to the base, to the top, and it's 45. But the neat thing is how it fastens in here. And I put a groove in the mold, I put a groove in the top, and then we've used a spline in it. And that really holds it together.
That's going to hold it together, all right. So,
I guess we're ready to start, Rick. Okay. And I'm going to start with those pieces so you can do the panels. If you can get somebody to help you here, carry this out of the set part of it, and I'll go over and put a router bit in.
Okay.
Got this bit tightened in here now. We'll bring the router over, put my wrenches away there. And, of course, I got to tuck my cord down here, and then I'm going to let you have a look at the bit that I chucked up in it. Stick my cord in here, it's a little handy, and we'll drop it into place. Now, the router bit that we've got in there, people, is a spiral solid carbide bit. And what it has two flutes and the end in it, and it's 3/8 wide. And what we're going to do is cut a 3/8 dado, or if you were going across the board, 3/8 groove in this case. And we're also going to cut the rabbet with that same bit. But we need to chuck up a fence on it. So we're going to put that cutter back in here, and I'll just show you what it is, and we'll get a fence. We're going to use our box joint fence to do this because you can do the combination. And we'll put these bolts out of here. We'll get them on in the table. Somebody always asks us, why do we use these bolts in it? Well, it's for location. And then you're not always hunting around where it should be. So we'll just set it up here. And then we'll give you the theory behind this in a second. And make sure that when you put the bolts in, people, that you really tighten them up, because there's a lot of pressure against that fence when you run your sticks in it. So we'll tighten that down. And I need a little screwdriver in here. And we'll tighten that down tight. And get this one. Now we'll bring the bit up and let you have a peek here. I got my brass setup bar, and what the theory is, we've got a bit that's 3/8 of an inch wide, and we have a fence that's 3/8 of an inch wide, and the space between is also 3/8. So we got three things that are equal. However, in it, if you move it in, it'll get loose. You tighten it out, it'll get tight. The more space you have, the tighter it gets. Now, the only thing we have to do is adjust the height of the bit. Well, in this case, it really doesn't matter how high the bit is. it's going to fit anyway. It has nothing to do with that. The only thing it is, it'll leave that rabbit tongue a little longer, give you a little more in it. But we're going to set it up here, and I'll go up approximately 3/8 because that's about half the thickness of the material, and lock it in. Now, having had that tight in it, if you need to do any adjusting, use your fine adjusting tool. Just tap that over. You'll make the space greater, bring it back in again. And you might see me tap that once in a while, depending what to start with. Well, we need some material to do this. Remember that chest, it's got 4 corners on it, so we need 4 pieces, and we need 4 more pieces to cut into that. Now the difference in these, and I'd like to show you, we have 4 that size and 4 a different size here. And the difference in it is the width. And the difference of the width is exactly 3/8. And the reason for it is that we're going to put the rabbet on the one, we're going to put the groove on the other, and when they lay in, this external corner on either side then is equal. That's why we've got the 3/8 difference in the size. So it will control it. Now, the next thing I want to do is pick a face side. Always pick a face side of your material, and this isn't only going to help me what I'm doing, it's going to help Rick when he comes to doing the panels and the cope and the bead also. So we'll pick a face side on each one of these and set them in. And I'm going to start by putting the groove in, and then we'll do the rabbet. So we'll mark those, and I'll just set them on the bench over here if I can get them again. And we'll set up in here, set up with this one. Before I start that, what I'd like to do is cut a sample piece. So I got a piece of scrapped pieces here, and one of the things you want to be careful with your sample pieces is that they're always the same thickness. So if we went in here, make sure that they're the same thickness. If they're not, your sample's no use to you because you've set it up to something else. So we'll leave it sit in here, and I've got these 2. We'll put an X on them also, and I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do here. Now, I'm going to set this in. We got some plug-in in here. We better get some power to it, and we get that set up, and we'll start it. Now, there is the groove that I put in. It's 3/8 here, and we got a 3/8 groove. What I'm going to do now is just turn that over and put it over the top, and this piece I'm going to stand up. And I'm going to stand it up on here like this. And now I've got this X faced out to you, but that's going to be wrong because it's going to be on the back side. So on this piece, the stand-up piece, the face has to go again to the fence. Now we'll run both of these through here. We'll clean the debris out. Now, do we have a fit? And see what nice snug fit that we've got in there? Now, what it did was come out exactly flush inside of here. We've got a real good fit. So if we get the same on that, I know Rick will be pleased when he comes to do his because it's when you put it together that you really want it to fit. And isn't it nice when it fits snug across the top of it? Now, here's what we need to do. I'm going to start, and we're going to put the grooves in these pieces. When I get done with all 4 of them, I'm going to stop and turn one of these around, and I'll clamp it on here. Then I won't have to hold it and run them both together inside of it. So let's start with them anyway. I'm going to get a push stick, too, here. Kind of a neat kind of a push stick we got. Maybe you'd like to have a peek at it. It forms a little pocket in here, and when I push down on it, it locks it in, and it'll hold it down. It's the hold down pressure that you really need in it. Let's run with it. Maybe I better just clarify something here because I remembered a few other shows that we did in it. I always told you to put the face side down. This time the groove's on the back side of it, so we need the face side up. Now, having done that in here, we'll clean that out. We now can turn around and put this back on again. And like I mentioned before, what we're going to do is clamp it into place here. And the reason for the clamp is that the bit's running very, very close to that. And if it touches it, it would take your stick away. You might like to put a little block of wood on top of that if you thought that you wanted to stop from a mark at it, because it is on the face side. Now, I really got that on there snugged in it. Well, that's the kind of fits we're looking for. So we'll just put that block in it, and we'll lock that in. We got that in tight inside of it. Now, we'll set the rest of these over on the bench, and this time what we're going to do is we're going to run the face side to it like this. And I'm going to use that other little block I had just to give me a little hole down in here as we go by with it. Now, here we've got the two pieces, and of course you see all the debris that you end up with here. One thing a spiral bit won't do, it won't kick it straight out ahead of you, because the spiral wants to bring it down in it. And now what we end up with here, slip those two inside of here one another, you'll end up with, and I don't want to put them tight together here because Rick's got to do some work, I got an X on that side, an X on that side, and you got a nice flush fit.
Now that we've got all the cope cuts finished, the next setup we're going to work on is going to be the bead. Well, let's just take a few seconds here and I'll show you how I set up this cope. It's a really slick way of getting it ready to use. All I've done is taken a small piece of material. This particular piece is a piece of 1/8 inch birch plywood. And what I want to do is I'll just set this aside here now, and I'm going to unplug the router for now because I have to set up the bead to match it as well. But what we're going to do is we'll take the 1/8 inch birch, if you look at it, and I'll just turn, and I've unplugged the router right now. We've just gone ahead and put it underneath the tool. And all I've done to set this up, guys, folks, is I lifted it up to the weight, then dropped the weight of the tool down onto that piece of material, and that's automatically given us our profile line that we're looking for. Now, what we want to do next here is to go ahead and match the bead cut to the cope. And if you notice, here's that space that we're looking for. It's right there. That's what that router bit's doing, is that little edge there. All right, so now what I want to do now is match the bead cutter, which is on the top of this cutter. This cutter is a single cutter. It's got both the bead and the cope on it all in one piece. Some router bits, you have to use two different cutters, which is no big deal. You just have to use another cutter. So what we're going to do now is drop the bead cutter down till it matches the edge. And I'll get it first, and I'll show you to you what I've got. And then we're going to check to see how close it is to match. All right, I think I've got it closely, and I'll just show it to you so you can see it. We've got the top of the cutter matching to the top of the tongue that's going to fit into it. Now, this is the cope cutter, and now we've got to run the bead so that the two will fit together. Now, there's one good thing about this. You can check this to make sure that those match, and that's what you should do with every time that you're working with it, is just test it to see that it works. I found that if you cut more pieces and it's set up wrong, it doesn't get any better as you cut more pieces. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to notch the end of it, okay? So we'll start here, and I'm just going to plug it back in again, give it one little touch here, and we're just going to touch the end. We don't have to go through the whole half, just touch it. Now, if you notice this piece, let's look carefully at it. We've got it set up, but it hasn't cleared all the material off. So either the cutter is low or it's high. If we look at it right now, it looks like it's low because it's leaving the material on the top. If it left it on the bottom, then it would be high. So let's set it back down there again, and I'm just going to raise it up a bit. Again, let's unplug it, and we'll just raise it up that little bit, and let's check it to make sure that it's working, and let's try it one more time. All right. We'll start it up. And I think we've got it now, so all we need to do is run the pieces. And let's go. Looks good on that side, but I got a little bit of a flare on this side. So like I said, I want to raise that up again a little bit more just to take sure that I've got it to match properly. So we'll make it up there. Let's try it just one more time. Remember, when you keep cutting them, if they're not set up right, it's not a good thing to continue through all of them. Very important to have them to match. If you notice this one here, I don't have it matched right exactly, but we will fix that here. But when you put these two pieces together, if you have that little lip on the end there, when you go ahead and put your panel into that area, this lip here prevents you from making the panel to fit. So it's very important that they match perfectly. So let's go ahead and get them matched perfectly here, and then let's go ahead and finish the rest of the cuts. Here's a little tip for you. Anytime you're molding several pieces of stock in a situation where some are molded on one edge and others are molded on two or more edges, always do the ones which require a single pass first. This helps prevent accidental double pass on the pieces which only need one pass. Now that we have both the bead and the cope completed, pieces fit and match from the face side. Again, that's the most important side, and if you notice, we were cutting from the face side or making our measurements from the face side down, making sure that the top is flush. If your thickness of your materials vary in any distance, it's going to happen on the back, which won't be too much trouble working with you, but try and get your material all the same. Well, now that we got all the beads done, the next operation is going to be making the raised panels. So I'm going to go ahead and set these pieces on the side, and we're going to tear it down. Let's take a look at that raised panel bit. So we'll set our pieces on the side there. We'll get rid of our top piece here because we're going to have to take the router out and change the bit. Anytime we're changing it, make sure that we unplug it and make sure that you're in a safe position to do that. We'll clear a little bit of the dust off here. Get that out of the way. I'm going to set the fence over here for a second. Then we're going to go ahead and raise the cutter here and take out the bit that we've used here now for the cope and the beads. And we'll just change to raised panels. We're not making doors here today, folks. We're going to go ahead and we're making a chest with it. So you can use raised panels for more than just doors. The cutter we got here now is a Roman OG bit, and this one here has got a back cutter and a front cutter. That means the distance between the two cutters is the piece that goes ahead and makes so that they fit into that groove that we're using when we were making the beads. All right, so we'll load this up. You don't even have to worry about it. If you have one with a single cutter, you have to use what's left over to fit into the groove. That way you've got to make sure that you got yourself set up properly to go ahead and do that. If you have warped or twisted material and you lift it off the table, what's going to happen is it's going to get thicker. All right, setting up the height. I'm going to use the same pieces we've got here that we've just finished cutting, because if you notice this profile line on this side it should match in the panel as well. So why don't we just take the piece that we've cut here, lay it down, get it so that they match, and once we have it so they match, well, you can be real close to it. That should be pretty good. That line on that panel is going to match what we've got. All right, so let's stick this back down in place again. And let's get the router in the right place and drop it back down. Now let's go back to the fence. The fence was this way when we were doing the cope and beads. We're now going to flip it around the other way, lock it in place, and that gives us our distance away so we can set up and clamp it down again. So we'll stick the one clamp up top here. I also like the one on this side here, like to tighten it down on the edge so that I don't have a problem with our hands. Now, let's go ahead and get ourselves a panel, a couple of panels here that we have to cut, and let's pick the face side here. Now, again, the best side is all important. The other thing you should look at is whether it's warped or twisted or not. Again, with the back cutter on the back, what it'll do is if it is twisted, it is going to compensate for you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and mark all the panels here. Get myself ready to go. That looks pretty good. When you're cutting your panels, you want to cut across the grain first, then with the grain, across the grain, and back with the grain. All right. I'm going to go get the push stick one more time, and we'll bring back the push stick. I'm going to get rid of the little stick here and just use the push as a holder so it's tight to the fence. Again, we're going to go across the grain, with the grain, across the grain. So let's go ahead and plug it back in again. Let's get it started, and let's try it. Let's see how fast our machine goes, too, here. We want... Things to look for when you're molding your panel is, in fact, this area right here. Does this tight corner go right out to the point, and do these two areas here match? Because if they don't, and you've got a little bit of a twist or warp in it, and you get one higher than the other, and I don't know if I've got that problem. I do have a little bit of a problem over here, just a little bit, not much, but usually it's perfect. If you check those before you go, as you're molding them, you can correct them then, and then you don't find those when you're doing your dry assembly. If you find them while you're doing your dry assembly, now you got a problem because you've probably already undone this setup here, and you have to go back and reset it up. So let's go ahead now and finish all the panels here. It's time for Router Bits, where we highlight viewer mail and projects. Dr. John and Dr. Frank from Southern California use woodworking as a hobby, and they made this beautiful zebra wood weather station. This project is a novel use for the small router box and weather gauges. Holes are cut in the four sides to display a clock, a thermometer, hygrometer, and a barometer. The outside edges are rounded over with a 1/4-inch radius roundover bit. It's put on a swivel and attached to a molded base. Jim from Colorado has made a large walnut box with a hinged lid.
I've seen you at numerous seminars and trade shows over the years and like the simple construction techniques used to make boxes with the router. My first box is bigger than your small boxes and uses your method of getting the lid and bottom to fit exactly. The box is glued up with lid and bottom together, then cut apart. This photo shows a rabbit on the inside to make the lip. I finally used hinges on the back to tie the lid and bottom together.
Boy, I'll tell you, Rick, these pieces are fitting pretty good. I hope you made enough of them.
I hope so, too. That's one thing you got to be careful about pine is you can't drop it on the corners and things. I mean, you do that and you're going to have them all dented up. Man, is this ever going together?
I bet you
this is going to be good.
And you just bought these pieces.
Yeah, they were at the
right there.
They were custom made for me.
Custom made for you.
I think that's all together. Next time, what are we doing next time?
Going to have this all, and we got the lid, we got the tray, and all the moldings on the base. See, this is upside down. We forgot to tell them.
Right, and we'll have this all together next time when we start. Watch us next time on the Router Workshop.
We'd like to hear from you. You can email us at the address on your screen. Send your comments, questions, or project ideas to The Router Workshop, Post Office Box 608, Chamberlain, South Dakota, 57325. Or in Canada, The Router Workshop, Post Office Box 280, Ely, Manitoba, ROH-OHO. To learn more about The Router Workshop, visit us at the internet address on your screen. There are few things more satisfying to build or give than a beautiful pine chest. With the completion of the unique raised panels which give our pine chest that professional look, we'll show you the trick to creating a beautifully molded base and top on part 2 of the pine chest. Next time, right here in the Router Workshop. Funding for The Router Workshop is provided in part by Hitachi Power Tools, manufacturers of a full range of construction and woodworking power tools. For $16.99 plus $4.99 shipping and handling, you can order Bob and Rick Rosenthal's The Router, a 130-page book which includes a plan to build the router table and bench, plus numerous tips, techniques, and educational information. Call 1-800-803-1449.